You're welcome here if you're she, he, we, or they. You're welcome here if you're gay, straight, or working it out. You're welcome here if you're in a relationship, single, divorced, or widowed. You are welcome here if you're inked, pierced, both, or neither.
You're welcome here if you're young.
Or young at heart.
You're welcome here if your neurons like to be typical or like to be spicy. You're welcome here if you're more Christian than Colin from Witch Hazel or haven't got the whole faith thing yet.
You are welcome here if you're living on a prayer or could use a prayer right now. You are welcome here if you've got it all sorted or if you've got doubts. You are welcome here.
Good evening. So let us join together in our best death metal voices, particularly if we are in a public space, with the gathering words of this evening's rite. Right? Fine. As moon rises, the sun slips sight. Begins the ritual of this night. For those convinced their path is right. Gathered from north, south, east and west, yet called at another's behest, those treading the path that is left. From near and far come as you are to this place and embrace this space as darker hue embraces you.
Good evening,
Water,
dear.
spirit, earth and fire, confessing the sins of empire, we come with our wounds and desire. Sensing that we are not alone, drawn to the flame that guides us home, for here you, me, and yet to be. Importance and signs of these times, for the sake of all those maligned, is yet the home of the divine. So, how's it been? So last Saturday afternoon, we had an experimental mid-afternoon metal, which was cool for people who perhaps wasn't as accessible in an evening in person. So it's cool for people to get there in the afternoon. Obviously, other people had other things on, but it was good to hang out. How has your week been since last Saturday? Is there anything that's particularly given you hope, joy, lifted your spirits? Just made your soul sing. I'd love to find out how the week's been, particularly starting off with any really positive stuff. Maybe it's catching up with people. Maybe it's you've seen a really good film. Maybe you have, which we know Joy said, yes. Maybe you have booked to see a particular band or concert or film. Maybe your latest edition of your favourite comic has just arrived. Yes, it has. The new Earthbound Transformer series. Maybe you, whatever it is. Maybe you discovered a new skill you didn't know you had, and you think, "Oh wow, this is amazing! I love doing this. This is great." Maybe like me, you haven't discovered a new skill, but you've still found something you enjoy doing, and who cares if you're good at it? So, what are you thankful for this day? So thankful that you have to say it in Norse because it is more Viking, therefore intrinsically more metal. And therefore you want to say not just one thank you, but veritably 1,000 thank yous. And so you would use the phrase Tusentak, but in a death metal sort of Viking way. So please do share what this day has made Yao say. Tusentak. Tusentak.
Hear the crowd as we roar. See the eagle, it soars. Wind and rain, refresh once more. From fear, hope redefined, we will not be denied. For are we yet alive? The threefold name and rekindle the flame. Faith, hope and love they remain. The song shall stay the same. Like it's all gone too, shall we be downcast too? Or stand shield to shield, together in the field? We refuse to yield. Steadfastly holding the line, full of wings in eternity's time. We keep pressing forward until the last, and our crash shall be forever. Tusentak.
This is awesome. This is like, that must be the record number of Tusentak shares in that amount of time ever. That's so cool. And what amazing ones they are as well. So just scrolling back, scrolling. Keep scrolling. Yeah, but not in a doom scroll way. No. Right. Yes. Okay. Nick's just popping in. Nick's just popping out. With his fish and chips. Are you going out? Or are you larging it? Are you sort of off to do something? Well, whatever you're doing, I hope it's fun. I hope it's cool. And I hope you are, still on the mend, and that all is good with you and yours, my friend. But it's good that you popped in and popped out. You put the nick in the Compline, take the nick out, the Compline in, out. Don't shake him all about because he'll feel sick again. Yes. Come on with it. All right, Hild. I've lost Hild again. I'm not joking this time. Like, I tied it up. Has anybody seen my Hild? I found the command strips to hang Hild on the wall in a reverent way, Hild, not in a sort of like weird way or like disrespect. Where have I put her? I don't know. So there'll be a prize for anyone who can spot Hild during this broadcast. I'm not joking. This is like, I don't know where she's gone. No, anyway, sorry. Torrent has registered for the first module of your psychology degree. Cool, nice one. And in a continuation, this is cool. This Sunday marks 800th. 800th. That's like nearly 1,000 years. You're all right then. That's genius. Thanks, Hild. See, I can hear her, but I can't see her. The church in the next door parish. So there's going to be a benefice-wide service. That's cool. So everyone's joining in. That's amazing. So it just so happens I've been going on a bit of a Bible history, textual criticism kind of rabbit hole, and determined that at some point, maybe in terms of passionate interest, special interest, in choose your own phrase, but it would be really, really helpful if it turned out to be Hebrew, Greek, or kind of something related to my job instead of fountain pens and transformers and metal. But yeah, so 800, that's nearly 1,000 years ago, which is not far off. Was it 10 something or other that some of the oldest complete examples of and kind of agreed examples of, I think, the Hebrew Bible, I think, that we have, which is just mad, isn't it? And that church has been worshipping for nearly 1,000 years, which is incredible. I hope it's I'd love to hear what's happening, and I hope it's not just for those in church, but that it sounds like a whole community celebration. So I'd love to find out how that goes. So Isabel even you bought your ticket for Cliffest. Excellent. So we are on it's on the Metal Methodist website. So we are on Saturday. James, don't try and remember. No, you idiot. Okay. Just going to our own website to look at the information that I should. Metal Methodist. Yes. Okay. No, I don't want to. Right. Hold on. Bear with. Sorry, I realise I'm typing out loud with our own website address here. So, under the tour section, James, is where you put it, wasn't it? Yes, it was. There we go. Cliff Festival, 24th of May, which I think is a Saturday. It is not, is it? Yes, I think. So it's 23rd to 26th. So, yes. No. Yes. James, shut up. Yeah. So, Saturday, the 24th of May, we are on the Orchard stage at 1:30 p.m. But there's lots of other stuff, great views of the Peak District. So that'd be wonderful to, see you in person again. That's wonderful. I've got some ideas starting to sort of ferment. So we've got half an hour or 25 minutes because we've got to set up in 5 minutes and take down. So, for professionals, that's quite a tight turnaround. For us, it's just like, what are we going to do for 4.5 minutes? Because I've plugged it in or gone, I've forgotten what I was bringing anyway. So that's well cool. Brilliant. Nigel did communion on Saturday with 80 young people at a youth weekend. That's superb. Fantastic. Bless you all for doing that. That's brilliant. And cheese and jack, fish and chips. I think eating fish is Viking. Assuming you caught it yourself and either ate it raw or let some of it dribble into your sort of beard whilst wearing a beard rune or something. Yeah, totally Viking. So, I don't know, put you off dinner, Nick, but it reminds me, all this talk of fish, of the two sea creatures who were swimming along, doing what they do. I can't remember if there was shrimps or prawns. I think they were prawns. I think, it's really rubbish being a prawn. It's like, you're just a pawn in somebody else's game. And so they one called Fred, one called Christian. And Christian really has had enough of being a prawn. He dreams of being a shark or a pilot fish or a narwhal. But what he really, really dreams of being is a human being, because life looks really interesting on dry land. He wants to know what it's like. And it just so happens that they meet a mermaid. It wasn't a little mermaid. It was, sort of a fully grown mermaid. It could have been probably a mermaid, mer person. Anyway, fantastical sea-dwelling creature with magical powers. And the mermaid says, "I'll grant you a wish." And so Christian says, "Well, oh, okay, amazing. I mean, if it's all right, I'd like to try being a human." And your wish is granted. And the next thing, he's away from Fred, and Fred's going, I don't think prawns move like that, but maybe he's going in a prawn bobbing kind of way. And then it turns out, actually after a while of being a human being, it's all exciting, it's all interesting, but after a while he starts to miss Fred. It's, it looks all shiny and interesting, but do you know what? Yeah, the grass is sometimes not always greener. I mean, it's probably less green in the sea because I don't think there is. Is the sea grass? Probably. So, Fred's like, oh, I've made a terrible mistake here. I'd give anything to see Fred again. And he's getting a bit down. And he's sat on the beach looking out on the off chance that maybe if he looks hard enough at the water, he'll see Fred bobbing along. And then he sees the mermaid again. And she says, "What's up? You look really down." So I am. I'm not being ungrateful, but I like being, a human being for a bit. But I want to see my friend Fred. And mermaid says, "Look, I don't normally do this, but I'll take pity on you. You can go and see your friend Fred again." So Christian is back in the water, swimming around, trying to remember the last time that they hung out together, where they were, and their favourite bit of rock on the seabed. And he sees him. And he goes swimming up, bobbing, whatever, to Fred. No, I've got it the wrong way round, haven't I? Because I'm prawn again, Christian. So therefore it had to be Fred who was transformed into a human being. Well, there we are. That's 10 minutes we'll never get back. Anyway, sorry. Right. I'm sure we can edit that out later on. Yes. Idiot. Thanks, Hild. Okay. So Hild's probably hiding in the cupboard. I think so. Yes. Okay, cool. So where do we get to with the Choose and Tax? Communion, fish and chips, Choose and Tax with Joyce for a good week. Daughter's 50th birthday yesterday, so a week of celebrations. So happy birthday to your daughter. That is fantastic. I'm glad that you're all able to celebrate. That's really nice. And Gisela, 2 beautiful days in Hamburg. I do like Hamburg. Yes. So Gisela will correct me. Is it? So my kind of interesting fountain pens. Lamia based in Heidelberg, and is it Kaveco that historically, if not even now, are based in Hamburg? And is it Leuchtturm, who do the really cool notebooks that are way better than Moleskines, traditional family-owned business, make the best notebooks for fountain pens ever. They made by Hamburg as well, I think, or one of them's Hanover. But Hamburg. Very enjoyable boat trip around there, where I saw a prawn who I thought was called Christian, but it turned out it was called Fred. And he's telling me that once upon a time he'd been turned to a human being, and then he went to see his friend Christian, and he got turned back into a prawn. He saw his friend Christian, says, "I'm a prawn again, Christian." There we are. Redeemed that one. She could well be. The church is older than the US. That's mad, isn't it? The church is older than the USA. Yes. Maybe Hild popped out for fish and chips. She might have done. It is. So I recognise I'm in Derbyshire, but we're, I think in my experience, so mainly growing up in Nottinghamshire, and then in Bedford, my experience has been that fish and chip shops, chippies, kind of open in the evening. It's an evening thing, it's a treat. You've been out for the evening, you might get some on the way back as a treat, but then moving to Yorkshire, I had this really weird experience where they'll open at lunchtime for like an hour, and then they'll open maybe sort of 3:30, 4, and shut at 6. So at the point I'm going, I just need some fish and chips about now. It's like, it's shut. Why is it shut? I can't be the only person in Yorkshire who wants fish and chips at 7 o'clock. I don't know if this is a Yorkshire thing, but hey. Nigel's at Cliff Festival as well. This is fantastic. Yes. Mermaid Cursed by the Sea Witch. Nice, thank you. Yes. Hey, hello, sir. Cheese tax. Oh, yes. indeed. Thank you. Hope you're okay, dudes. And okay, so your local chippy opens for a couple of hours in the afternoon, right? Okay, so maybe it's, I don't know, maybe then it was sort of Nottinghamshire that's the outlier. I don't know. It was just weird that I'd never encountered ones that tea and crumpets, absolutely old bean, the old fruit, the old mucker. Thank you, lovely people, for sharing what this day has made Yao say. But maybe things have been, as well as some good bits, maybe there's been some not good bits. Stuff that is heavy and not in a cool metal way, but just kind of sucking. Just put. And a chance to acknowledge that. If you want to share it in a comment, you're welcome to. Just recognise it's a public stream, so just ask you to be responsible for any information you share. Feel free to anonymise it, but just you know the drill. If it's stuff that you think in whatever way, just to acknowledge it in your head or write it down and then burn it or bin it. But just that stuff that you think, wish I'd done that, wish I had done that, or the words or actions of others, or a situation, people who are caring for people who are going through surgery, people who've been through surgery, and whilst some elements went bad, some elements have really not gone well, and so there's more uncertainty and pain and all of that. So just the stuff that we carry, to those things that we can lay down and leave behind, turn away from, turn back to the source of love and life and hope and peace, and those things that we can just lay down for a bit during this time together, and know that when we pick them up again, it's with that sense of sharing the burden. So what is it you might want to lay down? Cheers, Nick, mate. Oh dear. A light in the black or just a fear of the dark? There we go. So yeah, Nick, absolutely. Just have a good evening, and yeah, absolutely praying for your sister in hospital. And with Nigel, for your uncle, right? Oh, okay. Yeah, hasn't perhaps got long in terms of earthly life, but yeah, praying for you and for him and all the family and friends, absolutely. And with Gisela, just laying down bureaucracy and paperwork. Yeah, and I think in this country, I know in the US, I think President Trump's just essentially disbanded the Department of Education, and what that means for people's jobs. I think here in the UK, governments are making various changes. Obviously, a new government as of July. So yeah, some changes, and therefore that means changes to bureaucratic systems and processes, which is can be extremely stressful. So yeah, just acknowledging all of that, as well as the ongoing situation in Gaza and Ukraine and Yemen, and just everywhere that is not regularly now reported in kind of certainly Western news. But yes, what really? I saw somebody that had been deported, and the argument was that they got, I think, was he being deported to Mexico, saying that this lad had got tattoos, and the argument was that they were gang-related tattoos, and there was a photo of his tattoos that all looked like religious iconography and symbolisms. I mean, I don't know. I don't know what the sort of tags and symbols are of particular gangs in this country. Never mind, kind of America or so. Yeah, that was interesting. Just in whatever country with whatever government, those who are or feel they are negatively impacted by the policies of any particular government. Whoa, okay. So one of the executive orders allows for contractors to segregate people if they wanted to. So I knew a lot of the sort of I think in this country we call it equality, diversity, and inclusion stuff. And I think some of that had been kind of done away with, and the idea of rather than positive discrimination in order to move towards equality and representation in different fields, that there's a difference between things being equal and equality, that perhaps in order for there to be equity, some people might need more of something than somebody else in order to kind of make it in effect a level playing field. But I think I think that what's it called? Is it I think what the executive was about having the focus was about the brightest and best, rather than having anything around positive discrimination. So yes, whatever it is, let's lay down those things that are heavy and not in a cool metal way. I invite to share in these words together. The principalities and will to power, the worms from within my own darkest hour. I confess all the regrets and the regrets, the burdens and fears, the lament and the tears. I lay them down. And as we do, I believe that the divine, the all-parent in the person of Jesus comes running out to meet us, arms open wide, saying, "Come to me, all you who are weary and heavy laden. Even if you don't like Iron Maiden, though, why wouldn't you? And I will give you rest. May rest and peace and relief and hope and comfort and encouragement and strength be yours in whatever way you need it this night. And now, a reading from the Bible. What is metal? So metal, it's made of paper. So this is the reading set in the Revised Common Lectionary for this coming Sunday, the 3rd Sunday of Lent. It is in the Good News About Jesus, attributed to somebody called Luke, and it's chapter 13, and it's verses 1 to 9, and it says this. At the very time, there was some present who told him, Jesus, about the Galileans whose blood Pilate had mingled with their sacrifices. Ew. And Jesus asked them, do you think that because the Galileans suffered in this way, they were worse sinners than all the other Galileans? No, I tell you, but unless you repent, you will all perish as they did. Or what about those 18 people who were killed when the tower of Siloam fell on them? Do you think they were any worse offenders than all the others living in Jerusalem? No, I tell you, unless you repent, you will all perish as they did. And then it jumps to a parable, so a Jesus thing where he imparts perhaps teaching of perhaps more of a spiritual nature, but through a story, using illustrations that were kind of relevant to his audience at the time, so it made sense to people at the time, and because his ministry was kind of wandering from place to place, so it would have usually draws upon nature and things around the context of his ministry, and they're not always, they might have different layers of meaning. There's been 2,000 years of people kind of trying to understand them and interpret them in different ways. So there's probably they're not always as straightforward as they might appear, and that's about kind of inviting people to respond to the good news that Jesus was sharing of the kingdom of God, of freedom to the oppressed, and of justice. Respond to that in the person of Christ. So he tells this parable. A man had a fig tree and planted it in his vineyard, and he came looking for fruit on it and found none. So he said to the gardener, see here, young man, you. For 3 years I have come looking for fruit on this fig tree, and still I find none. Cut it down. Why should it be wasting the soil? He replied, sir, let it alone for 1 more year until I dig around it and put manure on it. If it bears fruit next year, well and good. But if not, you can cut it down. So that is the reading. So I guess the first bit before the parable is people talking about horrendous stuff that had happened, about the reality of suffering in the world. And I guess it picks up some of that idea that why do bad things happen to good people? Why do some of these horrendous things happen? And Jesus kind of saying what it seems to me in terms of whether terrible things happen or not doesn't kind of change the invitation that Jesus is making to respond to him. And to turn back to God, so to repent, to turn around and turn to God, and that invitation to life in all its fullness. And in this parable, that's a bit of a rubbish fig tree, really, not doing what it's supposed to do, and not producing any fruit. And I guess in a climate and culture where figs aren't, figs are definitely about food. It's not just ornamental. Then it's a bit surplus to requirements and taking up nutrients from soil that could grow something that might actually produce some food. So any thoughts or responses to that reading this evening? Some chance to have a think while we some music while we have a ponder. That's cool. So, yet again, I am using the guise of community preaching as a way of nicking ideas for the sermon on Sunday. Thank you, Nigel. Nice. Okay, cool. Thank you, Isabel. The fig tree brings to mind the human experience. Don't give up. Yes, yeah. If offered nurture and care. Ooh, that's awesome. If offered nurture and care, it's possible for people that they can bloom too. Yeah, which again, so given the right stuff, we can, whether it's the right setting and support. So, the beginning of last week, I had a work needs assessment, I think it's called, around being autistic. I think I said this. I can't remember if I've said this before, so sorry if I'm repeating myself. Which would be most unlike me. No, it wouldn't. All right, Hild. Still can't find her. Had this workplace needs assessment and discovered that perhaps part of the reason that I struggle with ordering things, which you never thought, right? Because this is always so smooth on here, right? Yeah. Finally honed, tuned instrument that someone's dropped down some stairs. But and so we're getting, there's a reason why perhaps I'm not good at that, and it links to the same reason that I can't remember how to do certain sort of maths, and was never able to remember it and didn't do very well in maths. But in other subjects, it was one of all of them that I went, and suddenly, suggestion of different ways of doing things, and some of it is quite revolutionary, actually. But it didn't occur to me, and so someone who knows stuff, sharing their wisdom, perhaps allows me to bloom in certain areas where it's felt difficult, and that allows more effort and energy to go into the other aspects of life or ministry or work or family or whatever it is. And particularly ministry that allows perhaps there's spare energy to focus on different things, and perhaps that then enables in ministry whatever gives God more to work with, and perhaps allows that fruit to grow as well. Yeah, but I do like that if we don't get fed in the right way, we won't produce fruit for God. Yeah, so I love that, the kind of the sort of the spiritual bit, but also the human bit. And Jesus says, I've come that you might have life and have life in all its fullness, which is about blooming and being all that we are created to be in God. And so this stuff about the suffering as well. So a couple of weeks ago I was in a service where the theme was Jesus and bereavement and grief. The person leading it started by showing a picture representing the Great Deluge, the kind of the flood epic that's found in the Hebrew Bible, the Christian Old Testament. I need to double check, 'cause it's been a while since I read it, but I think the Quran, but also in other probably sort of Bronze Age, ancient Mesopotamian cultures as well. So this kind of epic stories that may that are about trying to give a sense of why things are the way they are, trying to make sense in the world. And in this picture, it's just utter destruction. Because God creates, and God says it is very good. It is very good. And then human beings kind of do their thing, and God says, hey, look at this, trees and fruit. You can have it all, but don't go eating of the fruit from that tree that's about the knowledge of good and evil. And somebody pointed out, the tree of life, tree of knowledge of good and evil. It's like, whether it's a mermaid, a sea witch, or a genie, you can have 3 wishes, and you have 3 wishes, and then go, I should have asked for like more wishes, infinite wishes. It's like, you can eat the fruit, why of all the fruit, this person would say, why of all the fruit did you eat the one that God said not to, when you could have the tree of life, which sounds like, you're allowed to eat that, which sounds like an eminently good thing to eat, right? Why didn't you? But it's something in human nature that, we're told not to do something, then you go, why? What happens if I do? Who are you to tell me what I can and can't do? And free will, and then as an account in that creation narrative of human free will, and that sense that we kind of don't need God, so we have become like God or like gods, and so booted out of Eden, and God despairs and decides to flood the place, destroy it, start again. I'll say this little tiny bit, sort of Noah, he can do that, and so his picture has all of this kind of devastation, and it shows a representation of an angel. So in this painting, it happens to be depicted in sort of white and gold with a halo and wings, but actually what we know of angels really is that it means messenger. At no point does it necessarily talk about wings and all the rest of it, but anyway, and this sense that that God despairs in pain and suffering, because that wasn't meant to be part of creation. A lot of the stuff is pretty much a result of what we do to each other as human beings. The story and people talking about people who his blood was mixed in an offering, and by the Roman oppressors, horrendous thing, and people have been killed in a sort of freak tragic accident, or possibly shoddy workmanship, or all this stuff that at some point a human being either thinking we can do more than we really can, or doing something that he's cutting corners, saving money, all those things. But actually none of that was kind of God's plan in creation. And so God, well, Jesus at the tomb of Lazarus, Jesus wept, God weeps, this angel at the flood weeping, and so not about God zapping people, and punishing people by terrible things happening, but God who intended something beautiful, and in the end the God self goes through utter pain, utter torture, utter desolation, death, separation, parent from child, in order that in some way the initial intention of all of it being pronounced good by God can be kind of restored. So yeah, and I have no idea why I started that. I'm so sorry. So again, it's that thing of God's intention all along was that we bloom, and that we bear fruit for God, and that's justice, the fruits of the Spirit, joy, justice, peace, patience, all those things. And hello, Patrick. We're just doing. I'm just nicking people's ideas for the sermon on Sunday based on Luke 13. So we're just having a quick talk about the call to repent, and that good things happen to bad people. No, yes, good things happen to bad people and bad things happen to good people, but suffering, death, all that stuff perhaps wasn't the original intention of God at creation, who said it's all good. That human free will, the Nietzschean will to power, is what is so often sadly responsible for so much of the suffering and pain in the world, and we're called to turn again to a restored relationship with the Creator, with our fellow created humans, and with all of that good creation, and within ourselves, that we are named good, part of God's good creation. So yes. So I'll here's two nuggets for your sermon. I've got point 2 and 3. Just need point 1. So yes, Nigel pointed out that, and it talks about the barren fig tree, and it gets one more year. That actually, yes, but also, if we don't get fed in the right way, either by choice, repenting, turning back to that relationship with God, then actually we don't bear fruit for God. And I think, as Isabel has said, and actually the same is true for us, that offered nurture and care, we can bloom, and that's what Jesus kind of invites people to, is life in all its fullness, life in the well-watered garden. Mine's slightly too well-watered. I need to do the grass. Having spent 5 years in a house that had fake grass, I need to remember how to use a lawnmower. So yeah, and I think I was listening to somebody talk about this reading, and they said, this fig tree is growing, it's not bearing fruit, but actually, it's not much use as a fig tree for actually food, but it's probably still all right as a fig tree goes for in a hot climate for a bit of shade, and perhaps it made me think that perhaps in our relationship with God, with each other, and with creation, and within, if you are part of this community and or other communities of faith, that actually we can kind of be happy with things that there are. It'd be great if X, Y, and Z. It'd be wonderful, but you know what? It's providing some shade. It's quite comfortable. I can find some respite here. That's great. Starting faffing about, digging around it, chucking some manure on, all of that. It's a bit of effort. Also a bit of a risk, right? It might not work. I've been wasted another year with this soil. So I either put up with it as it is. At least I've got some shade. At least I can just turn up and be part of whatever it is. Or do you know what? I'm just gonna bin it, gonna burn it. And so yeah, that thing of the invitation to yet another second chance, the grace of God, but also perhaps something about we could think that this tree, all it's meant to do is be a tree, and in a hot climate we get some shade. Maybe being part of a community, a relationship with others, part of church, whatever. It's great as it is because it makes me feel better. It makes me feel like I belong. That's all right. But actually, the point of the tree is to produce fruit. The point of our relationship with the divine, our relationship with each other and creation is about care and nurture, about, as Isabel said, and as Nigel said, it's about bearing fruit for God. And so sometimes we have to do a bit of digging in and digging around and just allowing it to grow. And I guess it links to the whole Lent journey, the sustaining soundtrack for Lent. What helps you dig in? What helps you dig in terms of hunkering down and keeping on? What is it that helps you dig around? That helps you perhaps create room for new growth? As Torrance said, all of his kind of learning that he's doing. There is somebody who I think is quite inspiring in terms of self-improvement and being open to learning and all those things. So maybe there's something in there about, yes, nurture, yes, about life in all its fullness. But perhaps, well, both those stories are about action, aren't they? One's about turning back to God and getting that restored relationship with the Creator, with the created, including ourselves and each other. That's an action, but also, the fig tree. Unless we just want to sit and enjoy the shade, we've got to act, we've got to respond, we've got to do something. So during this Lent thing, what is it that helps us do things? Encouragement from each other, hopefully spaces like this, and perhaps doing something different. And I'm suspecting, the fig tree had a good water. It was being tended by a gardener. It wasn't just a little left there. And even then, it wasn't quite, kind enough. It needed a little bit more. How do we tend and care for ourselves? How do we tend and care for each other and for creation, which are questions within the Methodist way of life? And again, if you want to share how that works for you. Yes. Thank you, sir. Yeah, it is. And and trying, and I guess it's that thing of, that person, the gardener, has probably been doing their best trying to get this blessed fig tree to do something more than offer shade, and but just doing what you've always done is going to get the same results. So it ain't going to bear fruit unless you try something different. So some digging in and giving it another year, but that proactivity, I guess. So how do we encourage each other to improve ourselves for in and of its own sake? It's a good thing to kind of learn something new, to have a go at something, and if you try something, you're going to get a different result, even if you just work out that wasn't the best way of doing it. Not to do it again, right? What are those little steps? So we might not be able to make the fig tree produce fruit overnight. It's going to take a year, but you've got to start somewhere. So get on your knees, get the trowel out, but that willingness just to have a go, maybe, and support each other to take that first or that next step, and focusing on that, and then you look back and just see how far you've come, right? Yes. Yeah. So that, yes. So tending it, because so I had some wild poppies. Are all poppies wild? Don't know. The wild poppies, man, wild. And I was trying very hard because they were beautiful, but also just taking over everywhere. So trying very, very hard. And dandelions were the same. Kind of, I learned this thing about deadheading. Somebody told me that. So kind of take the seed pods before then it seeds and either falls somewhere you don't want it to, or somewhere it can't grow, and to try and kind of cultivate it, but in a way that was helpful in the context of this bit of garden I was trying not to completely kill. So yes, so how it links to the parable of the sower, absolutely. Name of a new band, the Wild Puppies, absolutely. That's I shall get work on t-shirts. Thank you for sharing that, people. Yes, I am joking about just doing this to get a sermon. But again, the beauty of this is I've read stuff and come up with one thing. We all share it together, and completely different ideas that are really helpful and clear emerge, that I found really helpful and clear. So thank you for sharing all of those. Bless you all. 5 shirts, yes. Trying to work out now what I'm supposed to be doing next, because again, I didn't do due preparation, right? Which I clearly need to do more of, because the same thing happens every week, right? So yeah, is there anything that we want to bring as in for prayer? I think people have shared. So praying for Nick's sister. Was praying for Lisa and her family. And I think somebody else put something in prayer as well. Yeah, Nigel. Yeah, praying for Nigel and your uncle and all of the family, and yeah, all who know and love him. Cool. Absolutely, Patrick. Always my friend. Yeah. Yes. David, sir. Yeah. Okay. And prayers for my Janice as well. Absolutely. So just all those all those that we're thinking of, physical health concerns, emotional kind of mental well-being, those receiving difficult life-changing news, journeying with others through that, supporting people in their own kind of, I guess, preparation for the journey from death into life, whilst also living with your own sense of grief and loss as well. And this was the point this person was making in this service. They quoted somebody whose name has just gone completely out of my head, Pete Gregg, who in the UK is kind of part of people who developed the 24/7 prayer movement, and I know churches I've been in were part of that, and amazing things kind of happened, right? Walk into this room where people have spent the last 24 hours praying, and it's like boom, you can feel something. And it's like I heard somebody talk about going into a 1,000-year-old cell where a Celtic missionary had kind of lived and prayed and then built their community and mission around it. And again, kind of walking in there, it's like the air is heavy, and it's that, I guess, what in Celtic spirituality is called a thin place between kind of heaven and earth, what we kind of experience and the wider reality of God's kingdom and the spiritual realm. Just those things being absolutely there. And again, I can't remember what I started talking about. Sorry. Talking about grief and Pete Gregg. Yeah, so the power of prayer. So he as a person of faith, quite inspirational. And he was talking about a relative and their experience of really full-on physical illness and pain, and praying for healing. And a guy who was instrumental in setting the 24/7 prayer movement, somebody who absolutely believes in the power of prayer and praying that there would be healing, and there wasn't. And then praying and praying and praying that maybe this person could be released from their pain and their suffering, and be in that place where there is no more crying and no more dying, where God wipes every tear from our eye. And still the person day by day was just going through all this pain and suffering. And quoted Pete Greig kind of starting to say, so I got to, and he's saying this in front of like 10,000 people at a conference, right? If we're all going to say, "Oh, inspire us in faith, Pete," he's going, "I got to this point where I'm like, I'm praying, and like, well, prayer doesn't work then. What's the point, God? I'm not sure I can trust you, God. What is going on?" And then the next day or the next week or so, he was just preparing for something else, and so looking back at people sharing things that had happened as a result of all this 24/7 prayer movement and ministry. And as he's reading it, he's got this amazing sense of joy and of thankfulness, alongside the frustration and the questions and the anger and the doubt and the pain, emotional pain of this loved one's suffering, and where heck he's gone in all of this. And he's apparently said to all these gathered people, going, "And don't you dare tell me there's something wrong with my theology, that you cannot experience all joy of the all parent and life and love and hope and inclusion, alongside all the pain and questioning that comes from living in this in-between time of the now and the not yet, of God's good creation with the tree of Eden, the ushering in of the restoration of that with the cross of Calvary, the tree of Calvary, and the tree of life that is for the healing of all the nations in the book of Revelation. Don't tell me those two things can't exist going side by side, and that perhaps is the experience of what it is to be a disciple of those two things held together." And she quoted at this service, Jesus at the tomb of Lazarus, weeping because of the impact of this death, perhaps on people he loved and cared about, on the fact that this is just part of human existence until heaven fully is on earth as it is in heaven. So I guess holding those things together. Praying too for the Element of Rock Festival in Switzerland. Yes, Pastor Bob. Who is now in Switzerland. Awesome. And yes, praying for your daughter and her family. Moving tomorrow. Right. Okay. So yes, having just moved and still working through the boxes. There are the same amount of boxes as last time you saw them, but ones in other rooms, there's less of them. So I empathize, sympathize, and I hope it is, amidst all of the stress and stuff of that it is a blessing for them. And it all goes well. Yes. Amen to that. Yeah. And maybe that isn't it. It's we are called to pray without ceasing, and that is about praying for the things that we would love to see. I'm praying for others, but praying if it's a conversation with God, if it's stuff Jesus did, in a sort of timeout thing, like, well, all these people wanting stuff, and I'm giving out. I just need to get on the boat. I need to go up a mountain. I need to go off into a garden and have this really intense conversation with my dad. It's so intense. I'm sweating blood. The wrestling, and it's and that is part of it as well. That is part of that praying without ceasing. I think it's. I think we've said it before, and I think certainly within sort of metal and doom and goth, I think that perhaps that what that can offer to spirituality, I think, is the fact that it's really tempting to get to all the good stuff and hey, it's all good now, but actually sometimes we just need to be together and walk with each other in what feels like tough stuff and dark stuff, and walk at a pace that is right for each other together, rather than just trying to rush through to, well, it's all right and it'll be better soon, or it'll, time will heal, blah blah blah. But actually, I don't know. Remember that Russia's the all parent as well, but actually, darkness is as light. So I think God is at work in all of that. But perhaps sometimes it's really uncomfortable, and we don't want to be in that place or with that place with somebody else. But maybe part of praying without ceasing is walking at the pace that somebody else needs us to walk, in terms of bearing fruit for God. Yeah. Thank you, Patrick. That's very kind. Yes, we're getting there. We are getting there. Thank you. So that's made me cry. Bless you, you lovely person. Thank you. Cool. Thanks, Nigel. We shall say the all parent in a minute, and then we'll do some swaying. Okay. Incubus Succubus is a good pagan goth band. Excellent. I do like Heilung, who do their gigs are very well pagan, and pagan, but again, what I love about pagan metal is actually, it's a remembering, and I mean that recalling, but also putting back together creation and a more kind of symbiotic relationship with creation, and there's something prophetic in that. So I have no problem listening to Heilung, and because it's a reminder of human experience, the joy, the pain, the grief, all of it, but also the gift and beauty of creation, even in its most desolate, and actually our dependence on it. That one is good. So cheers, Nigel, and let us say these words together for those people we've named, out loud for those people in our hearts, for the situations in the world, for ourselves. The joy for answered prayer, the frustration, the anger for unanswered prayer, what feels like that, and the strength to keep on keeping on in the name of love and justice and peace and inclusion and hope, and valuing each and every person as a custodian of the divine. To the one in whom all people and all creation have their being, may your kingdom come, your will be done, as above, so below. Sustain us for this day. Show us grace as we seek to show grace to those we feel have wronged us. Save us from the worst that is within us and within this world. For the kingdom, the power, and the glory are yours, now and forever. Amen. So the notices. So big thanks to Kate, the road crew, for sharing all the contributions that we've had for the sustaining soundtrack for Lent. Still got a few more weeks to go, so feel free to keep contributing. And thanks to all who have contributed. And I've discovered some new music, so thank you. And that's what it's about, because it's about sharing together. Gareth with his Monday missive as well, bless you, my friend. And starting next week, Kate's also scheduled. So I think a while back, tried to do a morning mosh pit thing, but recognizing that I am not really good at getting up in the morning and this school run, and it's just the shock of a new day. So I think it was, we've got several bits written and put together, but we've kind of broken that down so there'd be kind of stuff in the morning scheduled, so a little few minute videos. Some of it I think you may have seen before, some of you haven't, but just a chance for those who, again, it's the rhythm, and it's the without ceasing bit, and it's the rhythm that you do you sort of say words, incantation, prayer, and you say the words, but because you use the same words and there's a rhythm to it, sometimes when you're not in a good place, sometimes it kind of speaks itself back to you in a way that is quite profound. And I think that's the divine. And also the fact that knowing that other people are saying this at a similar time or sharing in that experience like we are now, can be really encouraging, that sense of not being alone. And that sometimes people might well be thinking of us because of what we've shared and knowing that we're not in a great place or whatever. And so when we have these moments and we do that prayer thing and we say these words, these incantations, but actually, knowing that somebody else has got you in mind, as Patrick's demonstrated, bless you. All of that is good. So they'll be on next week, and I think I'm going to try and keep those going as well. So as well as weekly stream, as well as monthly in person, as well as the sort of daily posts that we're grateful for Kate kind of overseeing and doing, for Gareth's stuff as well, but something just on a daily, early in the morning. Or no, not early in the morning. No, earlier in the day. To join in with, if that's helpful for you as you start your day or go into a particular situation that you're like, a bit wee about this, need to get in a zone. So it's all coming on Monday. So thank you very much. Okay. So yes, thank you for sharing. And if you would like some more metal of a sort of monastic midnight variety, or monastically at midnight, so add some Yorkshire tea. And some Yorkshire tea. There always some Yorkshire tea. There is definitely some Yorkshire tea. Then please do check out David's posts. And I think Kate shared them, but feel free to drop it in again. Squeeze me baking powder. So people can find you. New show set up. That's fantastic. Bless you and your ministry, my friend. And no, that's all good, Patrick. That's all good. Yes. Yeah, absolutely that. And no, cheers. And hope if you're going book club, hope it's all right. And thank you, Joyce. So see you all next Friday in the Palace of Glittering Delights. So yes, the Monastery Metal Midnight. Sorry. Midnight Metal Monastery. Oh dear. Yeah, Midnight Metal Monastery. Midnight Metal Monastery. Midnight Metal Monastery. Midnight Metal Monastery. Say these words together. Midnight Metal Monastery. Metal Monastery Midnight. Damn it! Midnight Metal Monastery, people. So an awesome place for tunes, for inspiration, and kindred spirits. So thank you all. I just think, I mean, you could call it the divine, you could call it Hild kicking me, which is not, because I don't know where she is, but I just feel I need to say, sway with me, Metal Compline. Sway with me, Metal Comp. Smell you later, potatoes. Yeah. I want some tea. All right, and Hild, put the kettle on. I'm going to go and find Hild.